who did this? And I'm asking myself, were you able to even try and fight back this monster? What was going through his mind? What was he feeling at that time? Not just Jayden, the person doing this to him, who did this to him. What did he do to you?
The profound grief that comes with losing a child or a grandchild. It's something most of us can barely even imagine. It's just a fundamental pain.
Absolutely. Touches the very core.
At the center of it, really, is Debbie Dunn, Jayden-Lee's grandmother. She's been very visible in the media, sharing her heartache.
She has. But our sources today suggest that maybe beneath the surface of her words, there's this unsettling feeling, a sense there might be more to the story. Let's get into it.
Okay, so where does the analysis start? What were the first impressions?
Well, right from the beginning of the interview, the source notes that Debbie Dunn's role, it seemed almost preset. Her words felt like they just rolled off her tongue as if rehearsed.
Rehearsed, so not spontaneous.
That's the immediate impression, yeah. Suggesting a narrative that's been practiced, maybe crafted, rather than something just pouring out in the moment, which the analysis sees as a kind of critical first flag.
Okay, so like reciting lines rather than speaking from raw emotion. Does the source give a specific example?
It does. It points specifically to her account of being involved in the search for Jayden-Lee. She says, "We were there with 6 police officers, asking them, requesting, 'We're here now, please come in, let's go door to door.'"
On the surface, that sounds exactly like what a desperate, concerned grandmother would say, pushing for action.
Right. But the observation made is that the urgency, that sort of sense of betrayal in her delivery,
Right.
it felt, quote, too perfect.
Too perfect. How so?
Almost crafted for maximum emotional impact is how the source puts it. Not messy or stumbling, but polished.
Polished grief. And how does that connect to the broader picture she was painting?
Well, it fits into this consistent theme. The analysis flags up. Her emphasis on her and her family's innocence, positioning them as the ultimate victims.
Okay.
She even asks directly, "If there are 2 people that love that boy as much as us, why would you look at me?"
Wow. That's a powerful question. Very direct.
It is. It's a strong rhetorical move, isn't it? Designed to deflect suspicion, maybe make you feel a bit guilty for even wondering.
And the analysis labels this a curated performance of grief. What does that mean exactly? How did it seem curated?
Well, the source notes her voice would quiver, but only just enough to suggest vulnerability. It didn't feel like raw, overwhelming emotion, but more like like you said, a performance, carefully managed.
Whereas real grief is often unpredictable, messy.
Exactly. It can be all over the place. Here, it felt controlled, like she was positioning herself as the story's emotional anchor, showing the grief rather than just being overcome by it.
She also says something like, it's not just a matter of being a suspect, it's about being beyond broken, which is obviously impactful language.
Hugely impactful. But again, the analysis questions the intense focus on her suffering in that statement.
Why? What does that focus potentially signal?
Is it purely about expressing pain? Or is it maybe about convincing the audience of her innocence by getting sympathy? Perhaps even a way to steer away from harder questions about the actual investigation. It shifts the spotlight,
Some of the tragedy itself to her own experience of it.
Precisely, to her perceived victimhood.
Okay, so we have this image being presented seemingly very carefully, but you mentioned cracks starting to appear.
Yeah, as the interview went on, the analysis suggests some inconsistencies started to emerge. Things that didn't quite add up with the carefully constructed image.
Like what?
The source highlights one specific thing. Debbie claims the police were too tired to take her statement, even though they'd apparently promised to.
Too tired, seriously.
That's what she claims. And she presents this as clear evidence of police incompetence or negligence.
Okay. But did the analysis question her reaction to that?
It did. It raises a pretty critical point.
Yeah.
If she genuinely believed the police were just brushing her off like that, why wasn't she? Well, why wasn't she raising hell? Why hadn't she pursued other avenues, gone higher up, made more noise.
Good question. If your grandchild is missing and the police say they're too tired, you wouldn't just accept that, would you?
You'd think not.
Mm-hmm.
And the source notes this eerie calmness in her tone when she recounts this, describing it as too composed for someone supposedly on the verge of a breakdown.
So the calmness seemed out of place with the story she was telling.
Yes. It led the analysis to wonder if she was maybe just waiting for the script to play out, rather than actively fighting for answers.
Waiting for the script, wow. And the sense of detachment, did it continue?
It seems so, yeah. Even during what should be the absolute most heart-wrenching part of her account.
Which part was that?
When she describes finding Jayden-Lee and trying to revive him, she says, "I'm feeling for a pulse and I'm praying, God, can we trade places again? He doesn't need this. He doesn't deserve this."
I mean, that sounds incredibly raw. Painful just to hear recounted.
It absolutely does. The words themselves are devastating, but paradoxically, the analysis notes something unnervingly clinical about her phrasing, even in that moment.
Clinical. How can describing trying to save your grandchild be clinical?
It's about the delivery. The source points to a controlled delivery of her emotions, a precision with which she answers questions. It suggests she was carefully measuring each word.
So the content is emotional, but the delivery felt measured, controlled.
That's the unsettling observation, yes. This contrast, extreme pain being described with this sort of detached precision, it becomes a really central point in the analysis of her presentation.
That's genuinely chilling if that's the case. To recount that moment with clinical precision, what does that suggest to the analysts?
It suggests a maybe surprising level of emotional control, or perhaps emotional distance, even when talking about overwhelming trauma. It reinforces the idea of a focus on the performance of grief rather than its raw, uninhibited expression.
Right. Less spontaneous, more managed.
Exactly. Carefully managed responses, not spontaneous outpourings.
And this idea of managing the narrative, it wasn't just about her own emotional state, was it? The analysis mentioned her focusing on the family's innocence, too.
Yes, consistently directing focus there. She even issues this kind of challenge, almost.
A challenge?
Yeah, she asks something like, would my daughter openly give access to have her phone investigated, to have her flat searched, if they had something to hide?
Ah, okay. The classic, we have nothing to hide, so we're cooperating fully argument.
Precisely. And the analysis reads this as a strategic move. The implication is clear. We're innocent. Look how open we are. It's presented as an attempt to deflect any suspicion, paint the family as completely above reproach,
Shifting the focus away from asking difficult questions about them.
and trying to control that public perception. It's a strategy.
Now, I know there was also some external analysis mentioned, something called a street talk breakdown. Did that line up with these findings?
It did, yes. Street Talk is known for its detailed behavioral and communication analysis, and their breakdown of her eNCA interview apparently reinforced these observations quite strongly.
What did they pick up on specifically?
They highlighted what they called a striking dissonance.
Dissonance.
Yeah, a real disconnect between the words she was saying and how she was actually saying them. They pointed to things like deliberate gestures and too well-timed pauses.
Again, suggesting it wasn't spontaneous.
Ooh,
More constructed.
exactly. All feeding into this picture of a carefully managed performance, not just raw emotion.
And did the street talk analysis comment on the too tired police story?
Yes, it reiterated that her response about the police delays, including that too tired detail, felt well-rehearsed, that she rattled it off with noticeable ease.
Ease, huh? Not frustration or anger, but ease.
That's what they observed. And critically, they noted how her focus kept shifting.
Shifting where?
Continuously back to her own suffering, her family's victimhood, and away from the core questions of the investigation. Like, when asked who might be behind the tragedy, she deflected.
How did she deflect?
By turning it around and asking, do you not even know those who are spreading all this malicious stuff against us? See how that shifts the focus?
Yeah, completely changes the subject from the potential perpetrator to people criticizing her.
Exactly. The analysis describes her rhetoric as carefully calculated. There's no accountability in her words, according to the source. Instead, she shifts blame often onto the police. She says things like, instead you look into what they've said about me or my daughter.
Portraying herself and her daughter as victims of rumor and police focus, rather than focusing on finding justice for Jayden-Lee.
That's how the analysis interprets it, as a deliberate, calculated effort to manipulate public perception and deflect scrutiny.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive today, looking at these sources, analyzing Debbie Dunn's interviews in the Jayden-Lee Meek case. We've really seen a consistent thread emerge.
We have a pattern of apparent contradictions, moments of really powerful stated pain, but coupled with what the analysis calls an unnerving emotional detachment or clinical precision.
And these constant, seemingly strategic attempts to control the narrative, to frame herself and her family purely as victims, and to deflect difficult questions.
Yeah, and the overall picture painted by the analysis is one where, beneath the layers of expressed grief and victimhood, there might be this meticulously managed public performance going on.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a pretty challenging thought, doesn't it?
It really does. What does it actually mean for finding truth, for finding justice, when a personal story in such a high-profile, tragic case potentially becomes this carefully crafted public spectacle?
And how should we, as listeners, as people trying to understand, even begin to navigate these really complex layers of information and performance? It's a lot to think about.